Right, let's try and get some analysis now on the campaign trail, and we're joined by political analyst Dr. Ongama Mtimka, who joins us via the virtual platform. Dr. Mtimka, good evening to you, and thank you for your time. I suppose it's worth starting with the latest, and that is today the ANC announcing that the disciplinary hearing of its former leader, Jacob Zuma, is now postponed until after the elections of May 29. What do you make of that decision?
I think it's a good call. Good evening to you, by the way, and your viewers, Polly. I think it's a good call from a strategy point of view on two grounds. One, we can expect that the gathering of many crowds outside of Luthuli House will not have skirmishes, and those could be potentially embarrassing. In an environment of an election, you want to stay away from violence as a governing party, lest you create the cloud that may be used against the extent to which the election is free and fair. We know that Mr. Zuma is not going to Luthuli House on matters of the campaign per se. But I think that the call that the officials have made to put the process in abeyance until after the election is sound, both from a management of potential violence, but also politically somehow it helps it to delay this issue until after the election.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
All right, let me allow you to clear your throat there. And whilst we are on this matter of the former president, I don't know whether it makes for comic relief, but you'll advise me on what your thoughts are on it. The former president, of course, as communicated on behalf by the party's spokespeople, the MK is suggesting that he will still attend the disciplinary on Tuesday. I'm not so sure who will be able to receive him at Luthuli House, or is this part and parcel of the political machinations?
You see, if they insist on doing it, it then shows that they wanted to capitalize on the appearance of the former president there and use it as part of their political campaign around the election to say, well, here numbers are gaining, there's huge numbers that have come to support the former president. He's still got some significant following, and they are fighting against his victimization. Now, them insisting, should this be proved true, that they will still be going there, makes it an act of provocation without an invitation to come there. It can be construed as an act of provocation.
But can the ANC not be accused of wanting or having wanted to capitalize on this itself? Because when I listened to the Secretary General today stating, or at least talking about their plans for the week ahead, he says the leadership of the ANC in its entirety, and I think even its stalwarts that have now started coming out to campaign for the party as the days edge closer, he says these people, the next week, was going to or is going to be in KwaZulu-Natal. The entire ANC is basically going to descend on that province. So was it not strategic by the ANC to keep Zuma in Johannesburg whilst they have KwaZulu-Natal to themselves? Or am I making a mountain out of a molehill here?
Well, it could have been a gambit. It could have been a gambit. Once it's no longer pursued, the MK party insists on going to Joburg, then it's a different story. But you know, former President Zuma, it would be that kind of a package which when you get, you will find the writing handle with care. What he has done is a capital sin. If you look at the constitution of the ANC, I was busy taking a browse of Rule 25, which deals with matters of discipline. And what you find there is that this should be a summary dismissal in terms of the nature of offense that it is. However, because the ANC has attempted to make itself a strongly a constitutional party, and this, by the way, was done even during President Zuma's time in office, it has got procedures that it has outlined in terms of how to deal with matters of organizational discipline. So while they initially had said President Zuma is gone, there's nothing to do, what can they do? But also were mindful of those within the party that felt that they were being timid and not acting with decisiveness, started to institute a disciplinary process. The disciplinary process is important because, you see, former President Zuma would, I believe this, would still challenge the ANC if its manner of getting rid of him was unconstitutional, even though his heart is no longer in the ANC and he's campaigning vociferously to have it removed from power. So it's that package that you find with that big inscription that says, handle with care.
All right, let's talk then about other political parties. I think one political party that really interested me this weekend is ActionSA, and I think Mondli Makhanya couldn't resist himself. He wrote today in the City Press about ActionSA's efforts to rename eThekwini in honor of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. I'm not going to use the word that he uses here, but what would be the motivation for ActionSA to want to do that?
Political parties are game theoretic. By that, I am saying they make calculated decisions to say what in a particular geographic segment can make us to gain traction. If you've seen some of the by-elections that have taken place, the party was not making a showing at all in KZN. If you look at the polls, likewise. So it's I suspect what has happened there is that they sat and said, what could be our strategy for KZN? How do we make our name count and matter in this electoral market? And to try and appeal to heritage, to appeal to leaders of a time that is gone, that have been a sort of a source of inspiration, courage, but also heritage and history in that province, became their strategic gambit. I think that's the gambit they are playing here, so that they can be seen as important in the politics of KZN. I mean, if the IFP itself doesn't feel like it can move on from the era of Umdwana Wagwapindangene in terms of its strategy in posters and everything else, it's understandable that a new entrant in that electoral market is going to try and find what can trigger debate but also interest from that constituency when it finds that it's failing to gain traction.
Very interesting indeed.
But as I say, it's a gambit. It's an attempt to, to get traction there more than it is about caring in the true sense of the word about the political heritage of KZN.
I want to conclude with the clergy. You can't exactly divorce them from South Africa's political scene. And today, Anglican Archbishop Thabo Makgoba praying in Soweto for a peaceful election. How important is that, particularly from that sector?
Yeah, it is important. I think that all social institutions need to play their role to ensure that South Africa is thriving. And as you say, throughout history, in fact, the coming out of colonial defeat from wars of dispossession, you see people that benefit from mission education become the springboard for the very liberation politics that were waged in this country for decades. So again, in the 1980s, in that broad multi-sectoral movement in the mass democratic movement, again, you see their faith-based organizations playing a crucial role. And also, the South Africa has got a huge, following as far as religion is concerned. If you look at the latest census data, and these leaders actually have significant credibility. If you look at the Afrobarometer survey also, it shows that both traditional leaders and spiritual leaders still command greater respect from the population compared to their political counterparts.
Dr. Ongama Mtimka, thank you very much for your time and analysis. He is attached to the Nelson Mandela University.